Good morning, Moray Rabotai. We're continuing on Masechet Chagiga, and we are on Daf Tet Wav Amud Aleph, 14 lines from the white lines. In the middle of the story of Elisha Acher, Elisha ben Avuya, we discuss the way he went off the path, so to speak, and he became from Elisha ben Avuya to Elisha Acher. Time allowing, we'll discuss some of the things that the Yerushalmi says about his story. This very account of our Gemara is mentioned with some additions in Yerushalmi, which we will pick and choose some of the pieces and we'll discuss. Now the Gemara goes through the discussion of Acher's relationship, Elisha ben Avuya's relationship with his student, Rabbi Meir. Now, Rabbi Meir was a Talmid, of course, of Rabbi Akiva. After the story, now we are in the midst of Yemei Omer, of Sfirat HaOmer, and we all know the Gemara, and Daf Samech Gimal, Gemara says, Yud Bet Elef Zugot Talmidim Ayu Lo Rabbi Akiva. He had 12,000 pairs of Talmidim, and Vekulam Metu Beperek Echad, and all of them died in one short period of time at Peros Aseret, between Pesach and Shavuot. And then what does Rabbi Akiva do? V'haya olam shamem. The world was desolate from Torah, and Rabbi Akiva, instead of becoming depressed and broken, this is a lifetime, 20, 40 years, he put, the Gemara says in Ketuvot, he put on developing this Talmidei Chachamim, but he goes at Sheba Rabbi Akiva etzel Rabotenu shebedarom. He came to the new five. He assumed 5 new Talmidim. One of them is Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir became one of the main Rebbeim of Rabbeinu HaKadosh, to the degree that Stam Mishnah is Rabbi Meir. Now we will see why we don't pask in halacha like Rabbi Meir, as the Gemara says in Masechet Eruvin Daf Yud Gimal. But Rabbi Meir is a Talmid of Rabbi Akiva. But he also was a Talmid Muvhak of one of the main Talmidim of Elisha ben Avuya. As we will see, the Gemara discusses this in 3 different encounters that they had together between Elisha ben Avuya and Rabbi Meir. Sha'al Acher et Rabbi Meir ra'achar she'yatza letarbut ra'ah. Elisha was in a Masau Matan in Divrei Torah. He is discussing Torah with Rabbi Meir, his student, after he's already out off the derech, basically. Says the Gemara, Amar lemay tichti, what is the meaning of the pasuk that says, Gam et zeh leumat zeh asa ha'elohim, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has made one corresponding with the other? What is it referring to? That Shlomo HaMelech in Kohelet says, I saw that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has created one corresponding to the other. So Rabbi Meir answers him, Amar lo, Rabbi Meir is answering Elisha ben Avuya, Kol ma shebara HaKadosh Baruch Hu bara kenegdo, whatever HaKadosh Baruch Hu has created, he has countered it with something of the opposite nature. Bara kenegdo, bara harim, bara gevaot. Hashem has created sharp, edgy, and tall mountains. There are, lower, round givaot in front of it. Now, which you have to understand, what does it mean? That's a counter. I would say harim, and then it should be bekaot, right? Not givaot. It should be the valleys and the ditches and so on. So this needs to be understood. What exactly is it that the opposite of a harim is givaot, not necessarily the valleys and the deep places on earth. So this is the opposite of harim. Bara yamim, bara neharot. You have bodies of water as yamim, as seas and oceans, and then you have, in corresponding to that, you have neharot. You have rivers. Again, you have the same question. Amalo, so says Elisha ben Avuyatu, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Akiva Rabach lo amar kach. Says Rabbi Akiva, your Rebbe did not say like this. What did he say? Ela, barat tzadikim, barat reshaim. As our opposites in the spiritual world, the HaKadosh Baruch Hu has created tzadikim, has created reshaim, barat Gan Eden, barat Geinam. Kol echad ve'echad yesh lo shnei chalakim. And not only that, but every person has two portions, two chalakim in the worlds to come, so to speak. Echad beGan Eden ve'echad beGeinam. One in Gan Eden and one in Geinam, like the Mishnah says, the beginning of Perek Chelek in the 11th Perek chapter in Masechet Sanhedrin. Kol Yisrael yesh lahem chelek le'olam haba. Right? Everyone has a chelek, a portion in the world to come. So says Elisha in the name of Rabbi Akiva, they really have a portion, Olam haba of the Gan Eden, the positive, and they have also a chelek in Geinam. So what happens? Zachar tzadik natal chelko v'chelek chavero. If a person grows and develops himself to a tzaddik, not only he gets his own chelek le'olam haba, but he gets the portion belonging and deserving every single person that, or one person at least, that didn't get their chelek. And the opposite also is true. Nitchayev rasha, when a person becomes a rasha, not only he gets his own chelek of what he deserves, but he also gets chelek chavero be'geinam. Now, what sense does this make? How does this work with judgment, right? If you haven't done a certain avera, how can you be punished for a chelek chavero be'geinam? And honestly, the other way also, if you haven't done a certain mitzvah, how can you get the portion of somebody else in Gan Eden? It's difficult. So, one simple understanding, and it is brought in the Mefarashim, is because when you are a rasha, you're affecting the world around you as well. Every mass, every negative deed that a person doesn't only affect themselves, you're lowering the entire world with your action. And now good things that were supposed to happen don't happen because of you. And vice versa, when a person is a tzaddik and does something good, not only he benefits from it, but now the world is going to be a better place. We spoke about what the Maharal writes about what we say every day in Tefillah, Talmidei Chachamim Marbim Shalom Ba'olam. This is a Maharal in Netivot Olam, Netiva Torah in the beginning. Maharal writes because when you tap into the zchut of the Torah, you are drawing the shefa the world was created through, and that pushes the entire Bria creation towards perfection. And everyone benefits. Marbim Shalom Ba'olam, they increase peace by the mere fact of sitting in their Dalet Amot Shel Halacha, learning without being involved necessarily hands-on in the world, but they are developing goodness in the world. And therefore, that which everyone else benefits from is gives you the right to their chelek leolam haba if they don't claim it themselves. We find this by Avraham Avinu as well. It says Avraham Avinu was 10 generations from Adam Harishon until Noach. Of course, the world was destroyed. And then 10 generations from Avraham Avinu, from Noach until Avraham Avinu, and it says, Ba Avraham v'natal schar kulam. Avraham Avinu came and took all of their schars, right? What does it mean? That means there was a chelek tov that was there, and Avraham Avinu became Av Hamon Goim. He took responsibility for everyone else. The core concept of arvut, of feeling responsibility. There are many types of halachic arvut, but the core of it is learned from Avraham Avinu, who took responsibility for everyone else in the world. We see it, of course, directly and clearly by the story of the 5 towns. Well, the 5 towns sounds bad, but the 5 cities that were supposed to be destroyed in Sodom, Amorah, Admah, Zeboim, and Zoar, and he was not letting go. He literally bargains with HaKadosh Baruch Hu about them, Maybe there are 50, maybe there are 45, maybe there are 40, maybe 30, maybe 20, maybe 10. And he doesn't hang up the phone. HaKadosh Baruch Hu basically hangs up on him. So Hashem just said no to the last question and he left, right? Avraham Avinu was left hanging there. He didn't want to give up. That's achrayut. That's feeling, the feeling of, and because of that, natal schar kulan. So that's when a tzaddik changes the world for good, he owns now the goodness of other people who did not claim theirs. Says the Gemara. Amar Rav Mesharshiam, my Quran, where do you see in the pasuk that you could have a double portion both in Gan Eden and Geinam? Says the Gemara. Gabet tzadikim ktiv, by tzadikim he writes, Lachen bartzam mishnei yirashu. They will inherit twice, a double, Mishneh, Melechem Mishneh. They will inherit double portion in their land. And Gaber Rashayim Ketiv, by Rashayim it says, Mishneh Shivron Shivram. Their breakage, their destruction will be a double destruction. So you see that there is this concept of being punished or rewarded doubly, twice. One of them, of course, will be for you, but the other one would be you taking the helek of your friend. Says the Gemara. Sha'al acher, a second account. Sha'al acher et Rabbi Meir. Lachar she'atzar Talmud Rab. Again, they're talking after, post the account of acher going off the path, and he's asking Rabbi Meir, "My dichtiv lo ya'archena zahav ve'zechuchit." Utmurata kelipas, the pasuk is talking about Torah, and it says the value of Torah, the erech of Torah, will not equal even gold and zchuchit, even gold and glass. So the kushya smuya, the unspoken question is: wait a second, what do you mean? Are you comparing Torah with gold? That I hear, but zchuchit. So it's glass. Glass is cheap. It's not really something of value, and it's not even durable like that gold would be. So why are you comparing the Torah to gold and to zchuchit, to glass, at the same time? Says the Gemara. This is, of course, the pasuk in Iyov. Amar lo, Rabbi Meir answers acher. Elu divrei Torah shkashin liknotan. This is a reference to the Torah that is difficult to acquire them. It's difficult to gain them, like kli paz and kli zahav, like gold. But it's easy to lose them, like kli zechuchit. It's very easy to lose the Torah. We just had the story of Rabbi Lazar ben Arach that we discussed. How he went and he was drawn after pleasures of the world, and he forgot everything that that he had learned, to the degree that he misread the pasuk of HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodashim to Acher Sha'ar Libam. And this is a drasha of Rabbi Meir, of course, pun intended. He said, look, you worked a lifetime to become an Isha ben Avuya, the Gadol Ador, and it's easy to lose them. You had one experience and one nisayon, and here you are letting go of everything. Says the Gemara, Amar lo, he said even better. Rabbi Akiva Rabach lo amar kach. Again, Rabbi Akiva, your Rebbe, does not hold like that. You know what he says? Ramak kli zahav u'kli zchuchit, afal pi shenishberu yesh lahem takana. That just like kli zahav and kli zchuchit, what's the comparison of kli zahav and kli zchuchit? That they both could be melted and reconstructed. Even if they get ruined, even if they get broken, you could reconstruct them. That's why, by the way, with the Midrabanan, we have a mitzvah of tvilat kelim by zchuchit. Midoraita is only kli matechot. Midrabanan, we add kli zchuchit also because it shares the same properties as a kli matechot, that you could melt it and you could reconstruct it. And therefore, midrabanan, we do kli zchuchit as well. They have takana even after they're broken. Talmid Chacham, even by Torah, is the same way. Remember, the pasuk is comparing Torah to Kli Zahav and Kli Zechuchit. So it says the Sada Shaveh, the common denominator of Zahav and Zechuchit is they could be fixed after they're broken. So is with someone that acquired Torah, a Talmid Chacham, Afal Pi Shesarach, even though that he went stray, Yesh lo takana, he has takana. He could come back, right? So Acher is saying this. Elisha ben Avuya is saying that's the pshat that Rabbi Akiva, your Rebbe, said on this pasuk in Iyov. It says Rabbi Meir was not shy. So he says, wait a second. If that's the case, af atah chazor b'cha. He took advantage of the moment. He said, wow, you're saying good, Rebbe. Maybe you should do tshuva, right? You're broken to pieces. Maybe you could put yourself together. Amar lo, he says, no. Kevar shamati ma'chorei pargod. I already heard ma'chorei pargod. Yerushalmi over here says it was ma'chorei parochet, in the area of Kodesh HaKodashim. Shuvu banim shovavim. Return, even the ones who have gone stray. Banim shovavim chutz ma'acher. Aside from acher. So Hashem said, I don't have tshuva. So of course we mentioned that this was just only to make it harder for him, but Hashem wanted to push back and say, no, I'm coming back. Someone actually showed me, Rabbi David showed me that Rav Soloveitchik, based on Rabbeinu Hananel, says a fascinating insight in this. He says, what was this is yesterday after the shiur he showed me, that what's the pshat that says that the Bat Kol said to him, Shuvu banim shovavim chutz ma'acher. It didn't say chutz me'elisha ben Avuya. It said chutz ma'acher. So if you want to stay acher, you have no tshuva. But if you represent yourself as Elisha ben Avuya, if you go back, Elisha ben Avuya could have tshuva. And that was the remez in HaKadosh Baruch Hu telling him, I don't want you to be the acher. If you want to stay acher, you'll never do tshuva. But if you want to be Elisha ben Avuya, you want to go back to who you were, that definitely has a returning path. So he took it seriously. He said, chutz ma'acher. And we mentioned, Rambam also says there are things that you can't, they don't let you do tshuva. Doesn't mean they don't let you do tshuva. They make it harder. The 4 categories Rambam counts in the Chot Tshuva, there are really 24 things, but the 4 categories, he says, these, they can't do tshuva. Doesn't mean they can't do tshuva. Of course they could do tshuva. And davar ha'omed bifnei tshuva. There is nothing, absolutely nothing, that could stand in front of a genuine tshuva. When a person has genuine remorse and he really sincerely wants to come back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, doesn't matter who he is. But here, part of it was that they made it more difficult for Elisha ben Avuya to do tshuva by telling him you can't do tshuva, and see what he does. Why is he asking Rabbi Meir? Well, it's not damning to him necessarily because he wants to tell him that I am excluded. If you want to go in line of reasoning that you're going with and not just say that the Gemara is telling us picking and choosing one out of hundreds of Torah discussions that they had walking together and learning together, if you don't want to go that route and say this is specific, then perhaps exactly that is his cheshbon. He wants to prove his point that to calm his conscience that I don't have a path forward. Because I heard, he makes sure every time to say, Kvar amarti lecha, we're going to have that I heard ma'achorei pargod that I don't have a path forward. To reinforce and say that again and again, perhaps calmed his nerves if you want to be a psychologist. So says the Gemara. That's exactly what that's what he's saying. That's the question. Saying, why is he asking something that he knows what he's going to be answering? And perhaps one could say is that's exactly why he is bringing it up, because he wants to say something that intrigues Rabbi Meir to say, oh, maybe you should look in the mirror. And then it says, no, the mirror doesn't apply to you. Says the Gemara. Third account. The Yerushalmi says that this was Rabbi Meir was giving a shiur, and in comes on Shabbat, Elisha ben Avuya on his beautiful Arabian horse, and then he stops the shiur. They go speak, and they're going together. Rabbi Meir literally was walking behind him, riding on a horse, and talking and learning. Now we have to really understand how is it mutar for Rabbi Meir even to learn from an afikores like this, a person that went off the path, and knowingly. This is like not a tinok shenishba. If there's one person that was not a tinok shenishba, is Elisha ben Avuya. And here, you have to know how is it mutar. And one is going to ask and deal with this in Amud Bet, the upcoming Gemara. But says the Gemara, so he's going with his horse. He's talking and learning, and look at the capabilities of the genius of Elisha ben Avuya. All of a sudden, he all of a sudden stops his horse and says, Meir chazor lachorecha, can't come anymore. Says, why? Says, because I was counting, as I'm talking to you and learning, I counted and I translated the steps of my horse into feet, and you just reached your Tchum Shabbat. You can no longer come further because it's out of Tchum for you from here and on. The Maharsha says it's impossible really to do this. He was just chattering with him. He's basically saying, go back. Let's